Present. You are live. Hello, everybody. I'm on stage. So it's Jeff Eichen here. I don't know why we're not huge, but we are going to present our screen to you here. And I'm doing a little back office before we go live, everybody. We're going to go live on Facebook also. So here we go, everybody. Um, And we've got Kim Gottlieb-Walker today, everybody. So let's go back to our Facebook here, our broadcast, and go live on Facebook, everybody. Oh, yeah, it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. And I'm going to come back to Kim now. And I'm going to go to our Zoom room. There we are. Okay, everybody. We're live, as far as I know. I'm recording anyways, so I can repost this. It's Legends in Photography, everybody. If I know right, where's my software, everybody, for, okay, so if I know right, right here, I have the coolest software, everybody. So it's Legends in Photography, and today, you know me, host Jeff Eichen, and we have Kim. Kim's been with us before. She's been with us for an eternity, and we're blessed to be able to bump and walk the planet and photograph and be photographers and take our life seriously through the lens. And the greats, which were all great. You're great, everybody, but Jeff Eichen with Legends of Photography episode, we don't know what number, but it's a beautiful time. When you go out with the camera, some of the greats of photography, the legends, Ansel Adams and Cartier-Bresson, but Cartier-Bresson said the precise moment. And so I also heard another gentleman that was teaching workshops, photography workshops, and he said that click moment, that click moment. And when you're editing your music, all you music aficionados out there, and all of a sudden that transition just clicks in. Well, with photography, it's the same thing. These days we have digital, so we can rapid fire and without a big old motor drive from the past, and all that stuff, and they're quieter. So it's really beautiful. But I do have one photographer, Pep Williams, who's been on our show, everybody, and he says he'll go all around the world and he'll go into photograph and get paid big money, and he'll take 3 shots and leave. And I go, what? And he gets big money, and his photographs sell on Christie's for big money. It's not about the money. It's about our style and what we do and how we do it. We're going to interview today the gorgeous elder photographer woman in love, actually, through her novel. So it's cool. I want to know all about it from the beginning to the end. I'm going to read you a little bit of my notes here. I have here, welcome. It's been a while since we've had an episode with you. I guess we all have to birth our new projects and then come in and talk to Uncle Jeff. So everybody, it's the Legends of Photography. I'm going to share my screen before we even say, get too many words in with Kim. But Kim, say hello and welcome to the day. Introduce
Hello,
yourself.
I'm glad to be here, glad to see you, and thrilled that my book is finally being released.
Ah, fantastic. I'm going to share screen, everybody, and then we'll get back to Kim and do our intro, because that's a good thing to do. I always forget, to do an intro at the beginning of my shows. So here's an intro I made. Enjoy it. I love what I do and do what I love. And that's what this is all about, your legacy. And what you do is Let's see if I can find the proper screen here. Do you see my screen now, Kim?
I do.
Okay, so I'm going to go OG here, and here we go. Okay, so I'm just trying to make this bigger here. So we'll go bigger. We'll go bigger. Come on, we can go bigger. Everybody, boom. Okay. And if we were sponsored, you guys can sponsor us out there, everybody. We'd have somebody in the back office doing this. So it's really organic, so don't panic. And here we go. Hello, this is Jeff Eichen with Legends of Photography with Kim Gottlieb-Walker with her new book, Lenswoman in Love. Let's welcome Kim and have a look back at some of her legendary photos with some incredible people that you all know. Jeff Eichen with Legends of Photography and Kim Gottlieb-Walker with her new book, Lenswoman. In Love. It's a novel, everybody. I like that word novel. It's just very novel. Can you guys tell me who that is, everybody? Kim got to be with Bob in the day. These casual photos are so beautiful. Was that Bunny Whaler?
No, that was just one of the Rastas who like to hang out in Bob's yard.
Okay.
That was Cameron Crowe with Bunny Whaler.
Okay. So everybody, I'm going to come back to the Zoom room and introduce you to one of my favorite all-time pals and goddesses of the lens. So, Lenswoman, take it away and tell us a little bit about. Oh, wait, I got my notes here. Congratulations on your latest creation and book novel, Lenswoman in Love. In our intro, we saw a few photographs that line your portfolio and life. Tell us a little bit about that and what brought you to this moment and inspired you to write a novel about photography and Lenswoman in Love. I'm super interested. And then I have another question I'll ask you down the road on my incredible technology. So give a go and tell us a little bit about what inspired you to write a novel. And hello, good morning.
I've had such a varied career and had so much fun. First in the underground press and at UCLA when I was a student there, and then working, shooting musicians, both rock and roll and reggae, and then working in television and movies. And it's been so much fun. People have constantly been saying, oh, you should write a memoir, but I didn't want to write a memoir. I wanted to have more freedom in what I was writing. So I decided instead to write a novel, but have it be informed by my experiences. So my alter ego, Maddie Garfield, who is the heroine of my book, has had all of her experiences, for the most part, all of her experiences are my experiences. And the things that she shot are the things that I shot. But it's set in as a love story. with a future director, and which culminates when they work together on a Western, with her being the unit still photographer and he's the director. And it was tremendous fun to write, but it took me 25 years because as a photographer, I wasn't an experienced writer. And so my first draft, it's a good thing I did the first draft 25 years ago, because now I probably wouldn't remember all the experiences I had. But it was rewritten like 4 different times, and it's been professionally edited. It's been through critique groups. It's really polished now, and it really is a fun read. It gives you a chance to experience what it was like in the 60s and 70s as a girl photographer, and experiencing those times, but in the context of a love story.
That's phenomenal. I'm really excited and interested in, you know, I studied, well, I got to meet some of the classic people in photography my lifetime. I consider you one of the greats, you know, for musician photography, rock and roll photography, and I can't wait to dive in deeper about a novel. I read, you know, the day books, you know, from Edward Weston. I read the Ansel Adams books and everything as a child, seeing how their life unfolded and what they had to say. But I've yet to really have a you know, a photographer write, you know, a novel about their journey and put it in that format, and that mm, what do you call it, Disney format kind of thing.
Well, it does give people a chance to see what it was like to be a photographer in those times, and what it's like to be a photographer on a movie set. There are quite a number of chapters where she and the hero are working together on a movie, and you really get the feeling for what it's like to work on a movie set.
That's fantastic. And so, where does the story begin in your career, the book itself? So, by the way, everybody, you can find Kim's book underneath here. I have a link to my site. I haven't put Kim. Kim, do you have a website that promotes your book? Do you have a website that I can put a link up for?
I do. You can go to www.kimgottliebwalker.com.
Okay, hang
and
on.
it'll take you to my author website.
Hang on. I'm gonna actually put that up there. But okay. So www. J. Walker. Okay.
Kim Gottlieb-Walker is one word.
No, I know that. Kim. Okay, no hyphen.
Right, no hyphen.
Okay, so I can't get that. So I'm gonna go Kim. GOTTLIEPWALKE. KimGottliebWalker.com?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, .com. I love it when people just do that.
And that's my author website. I also have my photography website, which is lenswoman.com. But that's just a small overview of my photographic career.
So as you can see, everybody, I just totally am using my cool software here to get Kim's name. I mean, where you can buy her book. They're on Amazon. They're on Barnes and Noble and all the usual stores. When did it get finally released?
Well, it's actually going to be released on February 24th, but it can be pre-ordered now.
Oh, fantastic.
And I'm hoping everyone will pre-order, because all the pre-orders kick in on the day that it's released. So there's a chance if everybody pre-orders, it could be a bestseller, even if just for an hour.
Maybe you could have a BOGO, yeah, a BOGO for pre-orders, you know, buy one, get one free. So everybody, Jeff Eichen here. We're all connected. We've interviewed Kim about her Bob Marley book, and her whole legacy is phenomenal as a photographer and as a woman. tell us a little bit about, before we go into your slideshow and talk more about the book, tell us a little bit about navigating any industry on the planet and being brave enough to be a woman in the industry.
Well, it was very difficult to get a job as a woman photographer when I first graduated from UCLA. I tried all the different magazines and newspapers, and they all had their male photographers who were already in place. And so I majored in motion picture production. I really wanted to be a camera operator, but there were no channels for me to do that. So I reverted back to doing stills because I had control over that. And I started working freelance, shooting rock and roll concerts and working with the underground press and photographing interviews, like with Andy Warhol and various people. And eventually, I put together a portfolio that got me my first job in the industry, in the movie industry. It was on John Carpenter's Halloween, which actually, that wasn't the first one. The first one was a film that was never released, but the script supervisor was Deborah Hill. And Deborah Hill went on to produce Halloween with John Carpenter and remembered the people she'd worked with who she liked. And so Halloween was the first film I ever worked on that was actually released. And then I worked on 5 films for John Carpenter.
Wow, that's phenomenal. I'm going to go on YouTube for a second and get the link, everybody, so you can see the link here. Tell us more about the early days and where the book started. Where does the book start?
Well, the book jumps around a little bit in time at the beginning because it starts with a memory of her father who gave her her first camera, but then it goes into the police riot at Century City, where she reconnected for the first time.
Okay.
After 3 years. And then it flashes back to when they first meet, when he comes for a summer job at her mother's folk club in Berkeley. And at that point, she's a folk music snob, and he turns her on to rock and roll.
So I'll come back here for a second here. So this book, Len's Woman in Love, a novel about Kim Gottlieb's life and meeting.
My alter ego.
Your alter ego.
It's not about me.
Okay. Yeah, but it parallels certain dances that you've done in the photography world, correct?
Right. Her experiences are my experiences.
And so in love, so it's a love story.
It is a love story.
Okay.
Which made it much more fun to write.
So I believe we're gonna get pretty soon to a slideshow. Let me do one thing here and get my what I want to do here is, this is just an incredible moment in time here to hang on. I'm going to, okay, if I send that, okay, fantastic. So I just sent our live YouTube post to Sherry, so maybe she'll pop in if she's just sitting by her computer and watch us. She blesses us. She says, "Oh, that's cool. You're talking to Kim," So everybody, we're with Legends of Photography. We talk to photographers that have a legend and have the energy to keep going. It's food for photographers to make photos, to capture their life, to go in the jungles, to go on set, to go with musicians, to photograph the day, the time, the life of all of us. It seems a little awkward these days that the parties are a little bit different. Post-show, everybody's on a plane 12 seconds after the thing. They're not sitting down partying and chasing each other, men and women, and people throwing their arms out for Elvis and for the Beatles. So it's a different time in space. What do you think about that? About the after parties these days? What do you think? I mean, Prince is gone, and a lot of and we have so many stories. You were there, so do you think that's happening anymore? The groupies?
I have no idea because I haven't been in that world for a couple of years now. When I was doing it in the 60s and 70s, access was very easy. There were no problems with shooting concerts or um, any of that. And I've always considered myself a documentarian rather than an artist. I'm there to document the things I think are worth preserving for history.
Mm-hmm.
And I also consider myself a decisive moment photographer because I'll sometimes wait with the camera up to my face for a very long time before I take a single frame because I'm waiting for a moment that's really revealing of character, that really expresses the personality of the person I'm photographing. Um, when I photographed Andy Warhol, it was at an interview, and he sat across the table from me at the Polo Lounge after we had breakfast, and he was with one of his actresses and one of his directors, and they were doing all the talking. He didn't say a word, and I sat across the table from him with the camera up to my face, waiting for any change of expression, because everybody has seen Andy Warhol with that same straight face. And finally, the actress said something that amused him, and he smiled, and I got my frame. That was what I was looking for, something that revealed him that was beyond what everybody was used to seeing.
So,
And
being a spirited soul, and wearing embroidered clothing and flowers in your hair, it means that you resonate with the time of your book. You
oh,
are
absolutely.
you are, we're not going to use the H word, but you do have an
I'm, I'm still a flower child.
okay. Flower child is maybe easier for everybody to digest than hippie child, but the hippie mamas are cool with me, and it's really beautiful to have a book about the 60s and the 70s and a little bit of the 80s. When was the last time you actually were on stage and or on a movie set?
Well, it's been a while since I've been on a movie set, but until the pandemic hit, every year I was photographing all of the guests from Hollywood who would appear at Comic-Con
Okay.
because my husband used to arrange for the studios to send guests to Comic-Con, and he was the first to do that. We've been doing that for almost 40 years because Comic-Con started off just being 300 people looking at comic books, and then he started to bring guests from Hollywood.
Oh
And
my God.
so Comic Con always gave me free access to walk right up to the stage and photograph the people we had brought. So
So your
I
husband
was
your husband Jeffrey would bring known stars to be able to talk and that were enthusiasts of the comic world.
and who were appearing in movies that those fans would really enjoy. So it would be everybody who had appeared in science fiction or fantasy or horror. Um, and so over 20 years, I photographed almost every major person involved in those in genre filmmaking, which was really fun. And
Right.
at some point, I'll do a book of those too.
Did you ever get Christopher Reeves?
Oh yeah,
Amazing, right?
yeah, yeah.
Right.
Almost everybody who has appeared in a science fiction or fantasy film over the last 30 years or so, I've probably photographed.
And tell us about your archives. How do you organize yourself as having 100,000 images in your vault? Are
I'm
they
very disorganized. If I had it to do over again, I would make sure that I labeled every single proof sheet with who was on the proof sheet because I have so many pictures now that I can't identify.
and
It's really painful.
and
And now,
in 35 millimeter they didn't have the date on that roll.
no, no. So I have a lot of unidentified proof sheets, which is pretty painful. I have most of my pictures, I have the proof sheets with the negatives in folders, and a lot of them are labeled, so I know who they are, but too many of them aren't. And also today, my advice to people who are shooting digitally is don't run amok, don't shoot 100 frames of the same thing. It is a waste of your time, because then you have to go through and figure out what
Bucky said less is more. Less is more.
Yeah, less is more. Wait for something that's worth preserving. And then back it up several different ways and make sure it's labeled with who it was you were shooting.
Well, by the way, everybody,
archiving.
by the way, everybody, and sorry to jump in here, Lightroom is a really wonderful way to organize your work through months, weeks, collections. And I do a collection and I put the date and the name of the event. And then in that collection, I have 2 folders only. One are stills and one are movies. So you open up a date, you open up this concert, that place you were at, Yosemite 2003, and in there it says stills, and there's a folder that says movies. So come to me if you want to learn Lightroom. I do teach online, but this is totally about organizing. So you have so many negatives. Did you have a darkroom, and did you make your own proof sheets? Or did Paris Photo do it?
No.
Did Paris Photo do it?
No, I used Richard Photo, which was a photo lab in Hollywood, to do my developing. One of the
Is Richard still alive? Is Richard still alive?
I don't know. It's been so long since I've been there.
Okay, keep going.
I forgot what I was going to say.
That's all right. I'm a Budinsky sometimes. So we were talking about proof sheets and darkrooms.
One of the first jobs I had was for an underground paper. It was called LA Weekly. It's not the LA Weekly people know. It was one that only lasted for a brief time. They hired me because they liked my portfolio, but they put me to work in a 3-foot by 5-foot darkroom for like 80 hours a week printing other people's stuff. And I'm not that good at darkroom work. And the chemicals and everything, it was just awful. And I never wanted to see the inside of a darkroom again. So one of the few things that I really like about digital is being able to use Photoshop as a darkroom. And it really came in handy when I scanned my negatives, some of my negatives. Because, for instance, when I shot Peter Tosh doing karate on a pier with the ocean behind him and the sky behind him, and he was wearing a black G, and his skin is very dark, and the background was very light. And when I got the proof sheets back, I thought all I had was silhouettes. But when I scanned the negatives, I discovered that there was detail in his face. You could see what his expression was. And I was able to bring that out using Photoshop. So the pictures ended up being in my Bob Marley book. But I didn't, for 30 years, I thought I had blown it and that I only had silhouettes. So I really like using Photoshop as my darkroom.
Fantastic. Yeah, I have your book in my living room. And folks, it's a remarkable, relaxed, behind the scenes, like Kim is sharing with us about that precise moment, that perfect moment of the click moment of Bob and all the Rastas relaxing, having dinner with a big puff of smoke, and so it's our world, and we're brought on this planet to do something. And Lens Woman in Love is Kim Gottlieb-Walker's new book, everybody. So go to, you can see my little ticker down there. It's on all the usual places. It's on Amazon. And we're so blessed and proud of you, at your point in your career now. So you were saying that you haven't shot any concerts in the last, 10, 20 years? When was the last concert you shot?
Oh, man. Michael Nesmith. Um,
Didn't he
yes, who I do dear
didn't he do Madonna or something? What did Michael do? Michael missed his
Well,
yeah.
Michael Nesmith was originally in the manufactured band. Um, uh,
The Monkees.
oh God, the Monkees, right?
Right.
And but he's a genius songwriter and performer, and he did one of the very first music videos. It was called Elephant Parts, and he had made these little videos of several of his songs, and they're absolutely fabulous, absolutely wonderful. So I've adored Michael Nesmith for many years, and he did a concert several years ago, um, as an old guy now.
Is he still with
That
us?
was
Is he still with us?
yes, yes,
Okay.
he's
So
still here.
so do we have Mickey Dolenz and Michael still left from isn't Mickey still alive? I think Mickey's still
I
with
believe
us.
it.
Yeah, we lost
Yeah.
Peter and Davy Jones. Yeah. My
Yeah.
sister used to love Davy Jones, and Paul
And
McCartney and Paul McCartney, they were the
and it was fun,
go.
and then also Donovan. I shot Donovan, back in the 70s, and then I shot him in the 2000s, and he was still wearing the same shirt,
So
the
tell
same outfit.
tell everybody the foot in the door. How do you get to shoot Donovan? Tell us that story as a rock and roll photographer. What is it your lineage because you've been shooting Bob Marley and people? Does that get you wherever you want to go?
Well, that I shot Donovan before I shot Bob Marley. I shot Donovan in the early 70s when I was in London when he was performing, and then I shot him in concert in the 2000s.
But I mean,
Um,
how does somebody with the camera get through the door, or do you arrange it beforehand?
well, it wasn't a problem in the 60s and 70s. Nobody gave you a hard time about it then.
Okay.
It's there's it's really funny now. They let people into concerts who have cell phones, but not who have actual 35 millimeter cameras, which is kind of crazy because there's so many pixels on the phones. You can get really high quality photos. So why are they keeping professional photographers out? That makes no sense at all.
Um, Amazing. Yeah, um, I have some photographs that I made on my cell phone. No, on my little tiny handheld pocket camera in the audience, from some of the blues musicians, the most famous blues musician of all time. And I didn't have a press pass or nothing. And I made black and whites out of them. Some of my favorite photographs are from the audience sitting in my chair. you know? Yeah, they
Yeah,
check.
almost the only shooting I do now is with my phone.
Well, the damn phone put me out of business.
And
Yeah.
now I only shoot for love. Now I shoot, like the families and friends that I love. And I consider my photography is kind of the opposite of what a paparazzi is. A paparazzi takes a photo. They're they're taking it not necessarily with the will of the person they're photographing. Whereas when I take a photograph, it's a mutual gift. The person I'm photographing is giving me their trust, and I'm giving them my skills, and it's a mutual gift. And that's the part of photography that I really love. And it produces photos that people treasure and that they'll treasure long after I'm gone. And that's an important part of a photographer's legacy is the things that they choose to photograph that will live on beyond them.
Do you have a proof of Lenswoman? Can you show us a proof of Lenswoman? Do you have one?
I just
Yay!
got the book.
Yay! There it is. All right, is there a place in the book with photographs?
No, it has no photographs. It's just a novel.
Just
But I'm
in
thinking of doing a companion book that would be my photographs from the time period that's covered in Lenswoman.
There you go.
So,
Your
because I
alter
haven't,
ego.
yeah, because
It's
I
good.
haven't, I haven't done one that's for just the 60s and 70s. I have the John Carpenter book and I have the Bob Marley book, but I haven't done the one that's the rock and roll and popular culture figures of the late 60s and early 70s.
Somewhere in my office here, and I don't have it on me, but there's a box, like they have the Pink Floyd or the Led Zeppelin box set, and they're collector's items. But I have a box from Dan Hare gave it to me from his father Jack, and it's got two of the books, Emperors Wear No Clothes. It has a CD-ROM in there that you can put in, these days it would probably be online or maybe a little thumb drive, but everything's in there. So yeah, you could do a companion after companion after companion. I love your artwork so much. I think it would lend itself to a tote bag and a t-shirt. I would love to wear that, and but that would be great. I mean, people are into those, but you got to do it out of hemp. My hat is hemp. My vest is hemp. So everybody forget Dirty Cotton. We're with Kim Gottlieb-Walker today. It's Jeff Eichen with Presents Lens Woman in Love, the new novel from the 60s and 70s by Kim Gottlieb-Walker. Would you like to share your screen and show us a little slideshow now? That would be wonderful.
I would love that.
So bear with us, everybody, and we'll give a shout out to everybody out there. I texted my beautiful family members, my sis, and if you're watching, hello, I'm with Kim.
All right. So my very first experience shooting anything journalistically.
Okay, hang on. I don't have your screen yet. I gotta go find it. It's behind something. Hang on. Let's see where Kim's screen is. Boom. Boom. So you're sharing your screen. I'm gonna go right to Zoom. Okay, so let's see here. We are gonna go find your screen. Is it love that I'm feeling? Okay, so your screen is right. Let's see. I've got every screen up but yours. What is on the front page of your screen right now?
Right now it's got the free speech movement.
Okay, hang on. Let me look for that. Right. I don't see that. Hang on. I'm trying to find what level my photography is doing. So we're gonna go boom, QuickTime, hide. Okay, and we're gonna go boom, hide. We're gonna go hide mail. Okay, we're gonna go hide Final Cut. Like I said, you guys, send me a sponsor. Then I don't have to do this. I'll have the back office do this. But in our edit, it'll be perfect. Okay, so I still don't have your screen shared, and I'm guaranteed you that I am gonna find it. Hang on. So we're gonna go down. We're gonna go here, and boom. Share. Okay, so it's not there, and bear with us, everybody. Here, we are going to find Kim's share screen, one way or the other. Okay, hang on. So I'm going to go down to Zoom. Okay, I'm in Zoom, and I'm going to go meeting, copy, invite, workplace, settings, meeting, enter, normal, view, show participants, boom. So I've got all of our participants. I have you there. That's not it. What the heck? Hang on. So I've got window of left of the screen, window right of the screen, enter, full screen, move, Move, focus, next, always bring all to front. Let's see. Everybody, I'm having a technical meltdown here, but not to worry. We will get it. Um, what I want you to do is close your share screen and open it again. It's got to be here. Bear with us, everybody. There it is. Okay, right there. Well, fantastic. Okay, so we got it now, and it was okay. Do the hide from the StreamYard thing down at the bottom, the little blue thing. Hide that little floating app thing. Yeah, just hide that. Okay. All right, everybody. This is Jeff Eichen here, and we are now going to put your slideshow right next to you, and because we're going on to YouTube in this manner. So my apologies for technology, but then again, Kim, do you scan your negatives now?
Yeah, well, yeah, I have thousands that have not been scanned yet because it's a very slow process, but I've been starting the process.
And do you need a sponsor to send all your negatives in and have them done? You know, I mean,
Oh, I wouldn't send my negatives anywhere. I made that mistake when Jim Morrison died. I
right.
sent my negatives to Rolling Stone and they disappeared in the mail and no one has seen them since.
Well, maybe walk them in, but I mean, to have some or to have somebody come to you, you know, to do that. I mean, I, do you scan them at super high resolution,
Yes,
like 3200 DPI
at least, yeah,
or
so that
60?
I can make large art prints.
Yeah, or 6400. That's fantastic. Okay. Well, everybody, we're with Kim. We see your protest photos. Take it away.
Okay, so the first thing I ever shot journalistically was my freshman year at Berkeley when the free speech movement happened. And Joan Baez sang to the crowd, and it was all very exciting. And in my book, Lens Woman in Love, my alter ego, Maddie Garfield, also experiences the free speech movement and photographs it and discovers the joy of journalistic photography.
Is that Joan Baez?
That's Joan Baez singing
Whoa.
to the crowd, yeah.
You know how I know that? I saw the Bob Marley movie recently.
You mean the Bob Dylan movie?
I mean, the Bob Dylan movie. Yeah, yeah. No, I did see the
Yeah.
Bob Marley movie too, but no, Bob Dylan movie. Yeah. And that was great, by the way, everybody. So yeah, tell us more about this being one of your first public photos of music.
Yeah, I was shooting with the little 35 millimeter fixed lens camera that my mother had had for about a decade that she gave me before I left to go to Berkeley for my freshman year. And I was just lucky that the photos turned out as well as they did because there's very little control on her camera. It was a very old camera. But that was the result. And then I started my teacher. I transferred from Berkeley down to UCLA because I wanted to major in motion picture production. And they didn't have that major at Berkeley. And my teacher at UCLA used to do interviews for the underground press. And so this was one of the people he interviewed.
Is that Johnny Carson? Is that Johnny Carson?
This is Jimi Hendrix.
No, I dig it. Everybody,
Yeah.
Look at these casual photos of Jimmy. They're really beautiful.
And I was 20 years old when I shot these. And I didn't realize he was flirting with me until I read it in a book about 20 years later.
Oh, what did it say? I was flirting with a photographer, or?
Well, it was a book called Classic Hendrix, which is a great big beautiful boxed book, and they had collected the best pictures of Jimmy from all over the world. And there's about a 4 or 5 page spread of my photos. And they said, well, can we get the interview that went with these photos? So I managed to get them connected to my film school teacher, Bill Kirby. And what he wrote was, oh, it wasn't a very good interview. I only did them to get free tickets to concerts. He said, the only thing I remember about the interview is that Jimmy couldn't take his eyes off our still photographer. He thought she was the cutest thing. And I'm reading this in the book saying, what? And I showed it to my teenage daughter, and she said, Mom, you mean you were a babe back then? So I impressed my daughter.
You were a babe. Photographer babes. Well, fantastic. Wow. Okay. Jimmy. And your light is beautiful. Your light is beautiful, by the way.
It's just natural light. I always work with natural light. And when I would set up interviews, the interviewer would let me kind of arrange the room so that I could have the person who was being interviewed opposite a window or some nice light source, so that we'd get some nice modeling on the face, some nice light in the eyes. And then I could just relax, and as they were interviewed, I would do the photographs. But while I was at UCLA, they had a lot of really interesting speakers, like Dan Ellsberg, who revealed the Pentagon Papers and helped end the Vietnam War, and Shirley Chisholm, who was our first Black Congresswoman and the first woman to run for president. And they were both speakers at UCLA. And so was Dr. Spock and Ray Bradbury.
Those are two beautiful photographs. I love your choice of putting them together.
And then when I was working for the Underground Press, and we photographed Warhol, and I waited and waited and waited until that moment when he reacted to what one of his friends was saying, and I got that smile. And very few people have seen Andy Warhol smiling, so I'm very proud of this picture.
What's the lineage of that photograph? What was it published in a magazine?
I don't think we ever published it anywhere.
Because it just is such a sweet. You were saying most of your photographs are.
Yeah, most of my photographs haven't been seen. You know, like the Jimi Hendrix pictures were in our own magazine, in Music World magazine, which is where I met my husband. But for the most part, most of my photos have not been seen. This is Andrew Wild, the health food guru. And this is when I went to England in 1970-71. Joni Mitchell performed at the Isle of Wight, and she was on the verge of tears when she came out and started to play. And the crowd was being very rowdy, and she stopped playing and decided to play something else instead. And as she started to play, the crowd calmed down, and the set turned out just beautifully. But right at the beginning, this was right at the beginning, when she really looked like she was just on the verge of bursting into tears. And I don't know what had been going on backstage or whether she was just reacting to the rowdiness of the crowd. But I really felt for her at that moment. And then James Taylor and Carole King were in London at that time. And they had a press conference, and that was my photo of them.
So it looks from a vantage point that you're in the audience down below the stage, or that's sometimes you'd like to shoot that way. Okay. You're in the pit. Are you in a pit?
Yeah, I was in just in front of the stage.
Right. Little photo pit. Right.
Yeah. And then there was a publication in England called Oz, which was a satirical magazine. And they had published an issue in which Rupert the Bear, which was a beloved children's character, was doing some sexual things, and they got busted for it. They got busted for obscenity, and the magazine was shut down, and there were huge protests all over London. And so this is, and I just came across it. As I was walking down the street in London, and so there's my picture of the Oz protest.
Well, it says Oz is not obscene, but he was.
Well, the English government seemed to think it was.
But. Oh my God. It's such a crazy world out there back then and now. That was Vietnam time, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And then while I was in London, I photographed Pink Floyd in the recording studio.
Tell us about putting your foot in the door for that one. Who did you know? How did that circumstance come about?
I was shooting freelance, but I was doing some stuff for Time Out magazine, which is, a British magazine that lets people know what's going on in town, and they sent me to cover this.
Simply
So,
amazing.
and in my book, I have my heroine shooting a recording session, but with a band called Purple Harry.
So everybody, we're with Kim Gottlieb-Walker, and she has a new book out called The Lens Woman. Let me show you that again
Lens
here.
Woman in Love.
Lens Woman in Love, a novel of the 60s and 70s by a woman photographer, you know. And so you're telling me, you told us a little bit about navigating being a woman. Um, Maybe that's even more comfortable for a lot of men, to have you around photographing during the day. Did you feel that you were not privileged, but felt that energy, that it was really, you could get a better photo than a guy could?
Well, rock musicians have a tendency to be very flirty, and they'll come on with any girl who's around. So, I was able to kind of keep people at arm's length, but in a friendly way, on assignment, and it was pretty easy for me. And but then I took a trip to Pakistan, which also is in the book, and here on the left side is a holy man who blessed me, and in the center is a doctor's office. I'm not sure if you go there to cure those things or to get them. Um, and then on the far right side is inside the women's quarters, where technically you're not allowed to photograph the women in Pakistan, but the women didn't mind at all, and they would warn me if they saw the men coming so I could hide my equipment.
That's a brilliant photo. Their eyes are so telling, and that's the precise moment. Everybody, remember, this is not only an interview of legacy, but a school of photography. Shoot less, kid children out there, photographers coming up, and wait for that precise moment.
And then when I got back to California, my very first job in the entertainment industry was shooting Sha Na Na. So I shot the whole season of the Sha Na Na show, which was really fun.
Wow, look at
And
their
then
pants.
whoops, we'll go back.
Look at their pants, everybody. That's quite a, that's kind of like the Pips. The Pips were always dressed the same, and so Sha Na Na. Were they from California? Were they West
I think
Coast?
so.
Yeah, I think they were. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then I also shot politically. This was the night that McGovern won the California primary. And present at the same time was Annie Leibovitz. So I grabbed one frame of Annie Leibovitz at work. And Woody Allen, I photographed both in performance and in an interview.
Is Woody still with us? How old is Woody now?
Oh, Woody's in his 80s, I think. He's still with us.
What about Annie? Where is she, and what's her vintage?
Well, Annie and I were shooting around the same time.
Okay.
And she's still around.
Okay.
But I can't tell you anything that was said at any of the interviews that I shot, because when I'm shooting, all my other senses disappear. It's only my eyes. So I've shot so many concerts, but I cannot tell you what they played or how they sounded, because everything was concentrated in my eyes.
Oh, fantastic.
And then
love it.
And then the end of 1972, I met my husband over the formation of a music magazine called Music World. And he was the editor. I was the photo editor and head photographer. And we put Tom Waits on the cover. No one had heard of him in 1973. And we put him on the cover. And that's at his home in Silver Lake.
That's beautiful.
And then we had Cameron Crowe writing for us for Music World when he was 15 years old, before he wrote for Rolling Stone. And we took him to meet Graham Parsons, who was the father of country music, country rock. And the guy peeking out from behind his chair is his manager, Phil Kaufman. And Graham died a couple of months after these pictures were taken. And he had told his manager that he wanted his body to be burned in the desert when he died. And so his manager stole his body from the mortuary, took it out to Joshua Tree and set it on fire. And Graham's family was absolutely horrified because they were a rich Southern family who had a mausoleum down south where they expected his body to go. And they even made a movie about it that was called Grand Theft Parsons. And and Graham told us to stick around because there was a girl coming over that he had just met who he thought was really terrific. She had just come into town, and her name was Emmylou Harris. And this is Graham's band, Fallen Angels, and that's Emmylou right here. And in the background right here, that's Cameron Crowe, who was a teenager. And this is my husband over here leaning on the pole. That's Jeff Walker, who is the editor of Music World. And we took this picture before we left at the end of the day. But I photographed Emmylou and Graham jamming together. And they may be the only pictures of them jamming together. And she always cites him as being her inspiration and her mentor. And so it was a very special afternoon.
Tell us about.
I did lots.
Yeah, keep going. No, tell us about the magazine with Jeffrey.
Music World magazine was a revolutionary idea at the time. We thought that the magazine should be like the radio, free to the listener or the reader and paid for by the advertisers. So our publisher was also our ad salesman, and he was spending all of his time trying to, get it published and get enough ads so that we could get it published. So we managed to put it out for a year, but we weren't taking any salaries because it wasn't bringing in enough money. But it was freely available at every music store. It would be on the counter as you check out at every music store. So there are papers like that now, but we were the first to do it. And by the time it folded at the end of that year, Jeff and I were married. We were expecting our first kid. It was a very eventful year, 1973.
Wow,
I did lots of rock and roll photography.
T-Rex, okay, and Peter. I just saw Peter get inducted into the Hall of Fame. That was beautiful.
And Jerry Garcia, Robert Palmer. I shot a lot for Island Records because after the magazine folded, Jeffrey went to work first for United Artists, and then he became the national director of publicity for Island in the USA. So that's what led me to shoot Robert Palmer and also to shoot a whole lot of Bob Marley.
Yeah, because Bob was totally on Island Records, yeah.
Right. And so these were shot during interviews that Jeff had set up in Southern California for him when he came in 1975. And in between interviews, he would just chill. And we had also arranged for him to appear on the Manhattan Transfer, which was a summer replacement variety show. And they had no idea what to make of him. But as they were leaving in the car to go to Manhattan Transfer, that's Bob there in the front seat, and it's being driven by Don, his manager, and other members of the Wailers are in the back seat. And I waved to them as they pulled out and said, "We'll see you over there." And Bob turned and smiled, and I got one shot of them leaving in the car to go to Manhattan Transfer.
Is that in California?
Yeah, that was in Hollywood.
Okay.
And then this was backstage at the Roxy, where Jeff introduced. Jeff is my husband down here in the corner, and he introduced George Harrison to Bob Marley, and they were thrilled to meet each other.
Wow.
Absolutely thrilled. You can tell Bob is happy. And this is my only selfie with Bob, an unintentional selfie, because I didn't even realize there was a mirror back there in his room. That's down in Jamaica when we went down.
All right, I see you there. Yeah, I see you there. Oh,
yeah,
fantastic.
We went down later in 1975, and we brought him all of the press that he had done when he had been in town earlier, so that he could see what the coverage was like. And those pictures that I shot over 1975 and 76, ended up going into my book, Bob Marley and the Golden Age of Reggae. And that's Bob heading for the stage for the Dream concert that he did with Stevie Wonder. And the other one is at his home at Hope Road. And then in 1976, he came back up to LA, and High Times wanted to do an article about him. So we shot the High Times cover, which was one of the few times that Bob enjoyed posing, because he didn't like to pose. He didn't mind me being a fly on the wall and just documenting things, but posing he was never really comfortable with, except for the cover of High Times magazine. He was all in. And that's my son in the yellow cap, my oldest son, who considered himself a Rasta. He knew every cut on every reggae album that had ever been released in the United States. And we took him down to Jamaica with us later that year. And he just won over every musician that he met because he knew every cut on their albums. He could talk with them about which were his favorites. It was an amazing adventure to take our 3-year-old down to Jamaica. And Cameron Crowe came down with us when we went later that year as well. But while Bob was in Southern California in 1976, he also performed in Santa Barbara. And it was one of the rare times when he was performing during the day, so you could really get nice, sharp photos of all of his movements, because most of the time it was, on a dark stage. So that was really fun to be able to photograph him in daylight.
Oh my God. And, wasn't that one of his last concerts?
Oh no, he did concerts all the way up until shortly before he died. He was still doing concerts in the late 70s and beginning of the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
But we also met Bunny Wailer, who is an Obeah man, and that means he has powers. And I had heard a story that a photographer had asked if he could photograph him, and Bunny said, "Don't let dead men take my picture." And the guy died within a couple of weeks. So what? I figured the fact that he allowed me to photograph him meant that I was going to be around for a while.
I love that dark photo, that shadowed photo of him with his eye. That's a beauty.
Yes, and his eyes look blue in that picture because he's reflecting the sky.
Do you shoot in black and white?
Mostly. I couldn't afford color most of the time.
Right.
And when I did shoot color, it was usually RGB. It was movie film that was 35 millimeter movie film wound onto rolls to shoot in a 35 millimeter camera. So they're really meant for projection, not for print. But it was the only kind of color film I could afford most of the time.
Did you get it in bulk? Did you get it in bulk and go into a changing bag and?
No, they had them pre-rolled onto rolls that you could buy.
That's a marijuana term, pre-rolls.
Yeah, another kind of pre-roll. But Bunny was such a great character. When he signed his contract with Chris Blackwell at Island Records,
right,
he insisted that there be a clause in the contract that said if Chris Blackwell died, that his contract would be null and void. And Chris said, "Well, why do you want that in the contract?" And Bunny said, "Because then I know I can always get out of my contract." And when we first arrived down there, we wanted to photograph him, and we didn't know how to contact him. So we asked Tommy Cowan, who was a producer at one of the places where he'd sometimes record, and he said, "Well, just call him." And he said, "Well, he doesn't have a phone. How do we call him?" He said, "No, go out under the tree in the yard and just call him." So we went out under the tree, and Jeff said, "Bunny, we're going to be here tomorrow, and we'd really love to see you. So I hope we'll see you." And we came back the next day, and Bunny was standing under the tree, and he said, "You called?"
Oh my God, that's a beautiful shot. The dark one, the one in the middle. Everybody, I like challenging, the shadows of photography. That's a beauty.
And then we also photographed Peter Tosh, and the picture with the aviator glasses, that was used as a repeated image on his album Equal Rights, on the cover of Equal Rights. And that's the way the world saw him, as a militant, as an angry guy. But the picture on the right is the way I saw him. He had the most gentle soul. He was such a sweet, sweet person. And he suffered such injustice in Jamaica, thrown in prison for ganja and beaten almost to death. And he had lots of reasons to be militant and to be angry, but he was the sweetest soul you can possibly imagine. And now his daughter, Nyambi, who was only 5 years old when he died, is in charge of his estate. And as you know, Peter said, legalize it and I will advertise it. So I'm helping her with that. She's licensed all my photos of Peter to use on the various merchandising that they're doing with Peter's estate.
That's fantastic.
And I also photographed him doing kung fu and karate out on a dock. And as I mentioned, when I got these proof sheets back, I thought, oh my God, all I have is silhouettes. I've totally blown it. And so for 30 years, I thought I had nothing. And then I scanned the negatives and discovered when I put them through Photoshop that there actually was detail in the negatives. And I was able to bring the detail out so that you can see his facial expressions. Because when you're against a very bright sky and you have someone with very dark skin and a dark G, you're lucky if you get anything because of the contrast,
right?
The extreme contrast,
right?
And I managed to get it all in. I was able to burn in the sky and dodge up his face, and you can see the whole thing.
You couldn't do zone system when you're shooting people, you know.
And on the left is Justin Hines, and I had to wade way out into the water so I could shoot back toward the shore so I could get him with the waterfalls behind. And then on the right is Bob at home.
That's a beauty. I love that. I love that Bob shot. Hang on. I wanna I just want to get that Bob shot. Okay. Yeah.
And then the next year, my husband went back down because Bob was going to be doing a concert, and Jeffrey wanted to photograph the concert because he knew Bob wasn't going to be touring for a while, and he wanted to photograph the concert so they'd have some materials to work with to promote him. And that was the weekend that Bob got shot, and Jeffrey was with him. So if you see the movie One Love, there is an actor playing the part of my husband. And at one point, when after the shooting, Bob is trying to decide if he's going to perform or not, and he says, "Jeff, what do you think?" And the actor playing my husband says, "Well, if you don't perform, then the gunmen have won." And that's basically what happened. Jeff was with him that weekend. All of the Rasta elders were telling him not to perform, and Jeffrey was basically the only one telling him that he had to perform, or otherwise the gunmen had achieved their purpose. And Bob said, "Well, if I had a machine gun, I would perform." And Jeffrey said, "Your guitar is your machine gun." And at the last minute, Bob decided to do the concert.
Oh, fantastic.
So you see some of that in the movie One Love, which is it's a sweet movie. It's a love letter from Ziggy to his parents, and so it doesn't cover the other whalers or a lot of the other people who were involved with Bob, but it does give a picture of
I saw that movie, and it's a snippet and a beautiful honorable movie, and it flows and it shows Bob on stage, so it's really cool.
And it's a lovely introduction to the music for people who aren't necessarily familiar with Bob's music.
Right, without a doubt.
And then, and one of the reasons why I didn't go with Jeff was because I was just starting to get involved with shooting for movies, and I had met Deborah Hill, who was a script supervisor on a little movie that was never even released. It was so terrible, but on that movie, the director of photography was Gene Cundy, who went on to become a very famous director of photography, and his camera operator, Ray Stella, and I was the still photographer. And she remembered us when she then wrote with John Carpenter Halloween, and she hired us to work on Halloween.
How many Halloweens did you work on? How many Halloweens?
Oh, just 1 and 2.
Okay.
And 2 wasn't directed by John. It was directed by Rick Rosenthal. But I also worked on The Fog and Escape from New York and Christine. And I have a few shots of those in here. But working with John resulted in my book On Set with John Carpenter. And working on Halloween was a blast. I didn't have a blimp at the time because it was really my first feature. And so whenever there was a scene where there was quiet dialogue, I'd have to wait until they were done before I could shoot because they'd hear my click.
Tell everybody what a blimp is. Tell everybody what a blimp is.
Okay, I have a blimp with me, which I will show everyone.
Everybody, we're with Kim Gottlieb-Walker. I'm going to reset the room here, and we're with the Legends of Photography, My Legacy series. And we just want to talk to beautiful elder photographers and upcoming photographers in this series, everybody. So, you know, take it in your heart that this is their life. So tell us a little bit about a blimp. What is a blimp?
A blimp is a soundproof box that you put your camera in, and it has a focusing tube that goes over the lens so that you can shoot through it. And you release the trigger from the outside, but you can focus it from the outside as well.
Hold that baby up. Hold that baby up. Let's look at that thing. And so for your whole career on sets and everything before the digital quiet cameras, wow.
Yep. This is what you'd have to use. It weighs a ton, but you can focus the lens from the outside, and the focusing tube, I'll take it up so you can see there's a lens inside.
All right. You got your Nikon in there, yeah.
Yeah. I used that Nikon for 30 years. I mean, it was a great camera.
Was that were you a plus X or tri-X gal?
Oh, it had to be tri-X because I was usually working at such low light levels. It was usually tri-X pushed to at least 1200 and sometimes more, because we were working at really, really low light levels. You know, sometimes as low as like 5 or 6 foot candles. I mean, really low.
Tri-X at 1200 has beautiful grain.
Yeah, and sometimes 2400. I mean, I would have to really push it sometimes to get the low light levels we were working with. But in these photos, like the photo on the right, it sometimes takes a while to figure out what it is. But this is after the character Annie has died inside a car, and the inside of the car windows are all steamed up, and her face slides down the window, and you can see her eye and her nose and everything to orient yourself.
That's a great photo. What's that above her head? Is that a?
That's just where her face initially hit the window and then slid down.
Oh my God!
Window.
Oh my God!
And it was Jamie Lee Curtis's first film, and that's her playing with the props. And working with Donald Pleasance was a joy, because when you're working with a pro, they understand why the still photographer is there and are cooperative with it. When you're working with inexperienced actors, sometimes they don't understand why there's a still photographer there and get impatient. So I always loved working with the old pros, because they understood that the stills were just as much a part of the job as the movie camera was.
So during a film shoot, you would wait for the scene to end and then they would pose for you?
Well, sometimes, although John was such a pleasure to work with, if it was a scene that he knew was important and that I really wanted to cover, he'd say, okay, do it again now for Kim. And so there were scenes where they would just do the whole scene over again for me so I could shoot it, which was absolutely fabulous. And Jamie was only 19 when she made Halloween. And she was very insecure at first. And after the first day of shooting, John called her, and she was afraid he was calling to fire her, but he was calling to tell her what a great day it was and how wonderful the experience was going to be, and which was a great relief to her. But she was absolutely a doll. She was 19 years old. She was so enthusiastic. She would just help out with anything that was needed, was always, willing to pose if the light was good, and, we wanted to grab a few shots. She was just a joy. And when the John Carpenter book came out, she was making an appearance, I think at the Egyptian Theater, And I went backstage to give her a copy of the book, and she got so excited when she got on stage. She held the book up for everyone to see, and she was just, she's just a doll. She's such a good person. And then I went on to work on other movies for John, including Escape from New York. And my daughter recently produced a film that starred his son Wyatt. And so she took a picture of her and Wyatt that matches that middle picture so that we have two generations. And like the picture on the far right,
Mm-hmm.
that was taken inside the glider that Snake Plissken takes to get into the penal colony of New York. And the only light was little tiny red lights on the dashboard. I mean, there was almost no light at all. I shot that at 1.2 at a 30th of a second, holding my breath, hoping it would turn out.
Can you pause for a second, Kim? I'm trying to figure out my microphone here. Just pause and hold that thought there with your daughter. I'm gonna go because I'm going in deep to my settings here. I just want to be sure that we're being we have sound. Hang on. I had sound all morning. Hang on. Let me go back, everybody. Let me go back to here. Okay, so we're going to go and get out of settings. And we're going to... I want to be sure that we're getting recorded here because we have such an incredible afternoon here with Kim Gottlieb. Hang on, everybody. So we're going to go to find. Let's go find Facebook. Boom. Hang on. I'm on my second screen here, navigating to see that we're good. Okay, we're coming back up here. Boom. And we're going to go.
Do you want me to talk about these pictures again?
Well, I got to figure out if we got any sound today. Hang on, it's coming up here. Because we got it. So we're okay. For those of you that are live, don't get upset with the back office here. We're talking about incredible life and times of the Lenswoman in Love, and also Kim Gottlieb's Walker's legacy as a photographer and a Tri-X pushed to 3,200, whatever. You know, it's just really beautiful that you know, and then they went to T-Max, right? They went to T-Max. So those photographers that are listening, just what we're talking about. And so Kim, keep going. We're fine now with our everything. And tell us a little bit more about Russell, Kurt Russell.
Well, that's me with Kurt in the middle.
That's
and,
you as a babe?
That's me when I was a babe, yeah.
That's what your daughter said. That's hilarious. So
yeah. And she produced a film with his son Wyatt. And so she staged a picture of her with Wyatt to match that one so that we have two generations.
When was the last time you had some broke bread with Sherry, my sister?
Oh, it's been a little while. I miss her because I love her dearly.
So
And
does she know that it doesn't fall far from the tree that your daughter has produced film and things like that? Because Kit, her daughter has been doing series and what the heck, right? You guys are
oh, I know.
great.
Well, Kit and Rachel are still best friends. They've been friends since they were in the Paramount Child Care Center when they were toddlers. So they've been friends for a very long time.
Oh, fantastic. So carry on, Kurt Russell and you.
And then the picture on the far right was shot with almost no light at all, almost none. So it was about a 30th of a second at 1.2, and holding my breath and hoping that it would turn out. And and one thing that a photographer, when you establish a relationship with a director, you can teach them to point when there's nothing going on, because if they're just standing there, it's not a picture. If they're pointing at something, you've got a picture. So this is John Carpenter on one side and Dean Cundy, his director of photography, I had also taught to point if nothing was going on. And they saw me standing there, so they both spontaneously pointed.
Was that 35 millimeter film they were shooting on?
Yes.
I wonder if any of that's still alive, does or did because they say that film does degrade and all those archives.
Oh, I'm sure Escape from New York is still in good shape.
And everything's digitized by now, probably.
Yeah. And that's me with John Carpenter and Deborah Hill. And Deborah was the one who got me into the union with Escape from New York, because Escape from New York was the first union film I did. And there was a catch-22 that you can't do a union film unless you're in the union, but you can't get into the union unless you've had 30 days on a union film. So she signed a contract with me before she signed her union contracts to do Escape from New York. So they had to honor the previous contracts that were still valid. So I got my 30 days. Although on the 29th day, I broke my arm in 3 places. So I had to shoot my last day with my arm in a cast and on pain medication. But I got my 30 days and I got into the union. And that's me playing with the props on the right-hand side.
And what was the year of that? When was that?
1980
Oh,
was the year
wow.
that I got into the union. And there weren't a lot of women in the union at that point. So it was a big deal. And Ernest Borgnine has the kind of face that is a photographer's dream, because he snaps right into focus with all those little lines and hairs and everything. He was really easy to focus on. And then on the right, James Cameron was an assistant effects guy on Escape from New York, and he painted the New York skyline on glass, and then we lined it up with the horizon at the Sepulveda Dam
What?
to turn it into Central Park.
What?
So all the scenes that take place in Central Park are actually at the Sepulveda Dam in LA, but Jim Cameron painted the skyline.
Wow. That's a trick, everybody.
And then one of the things that I took great pride in was doing cast and crew pictures. And every show I've ever worked on, I've always made sure to get a cast and crew picture and to make sure that every single person is visible, because every single person is important. And so this was the cast and crew picture for Escape from New York. And I'm on the far right down here.
So you shot these photos and then you put it on tripod and then went in?
Yep, I'd put it on a tripod, put the shutter on a delay, and run in.
Right, right. In those days, let me come down here. Hang on, everybody. So in those days, the timer was like a little, right?
You'd have like 5 or 6 seconds or something to run and get it to the picture.
Right. Hang on. Check this out. Vintage. Can you see me?
No, because I have my stuff on the screen.
Isn't there a little window with me on the little window somewhere?
Nope.
Oh, okay. Anyways, I'm showing I'm showing my Canon F1. So we'll show it to you in a minute. Okay, so carry on. I love the cast photos. That's one of my specialties too, is when I'm somewhere. Now, guess what? The other night, the other night, one of my friends who has a dis, um, a disease that it's called Hutchinson's disease, and so it's a muscle disease, and he's not going to be around very long. But he used to be a magician at the Magic Castle, and he lives here. And his family members are beautiful, and they're all here. They had a live wake for him, so we had jugglers, and we had magicians, and we had the unexpected brass band from my town play, and everything like that. So at the end, I got everybody just like this photograph set up. And that night, my digital photography was not being very happy with me, but I felt when I did the 5 shots of everybody on stage and of my beautiful friend, Joey Pipia, who is like, I hate to say it, but dying slowly with this disease. I felt the mirror go up, click, 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 and I got home and they never saved to the card. But I had taken a photograph before that of him on stage in an awkward state with his cane. So it was a Bob Marley moment and I made a black and white photograph of that. And it was truly him. And there were people around him, but I didn't get the full everybody photo. And so I haven't sent that card in yet for somebody to try to retrieve it. But so everybody, get a newer camera with 2 cards in it. That's what they got. Okay, carry on.
One of the things I taught my daughter when she's producing things is to always make sure they get the cast and crew picture at the end.
Right. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, at the Oregon Country Fair, every corner, I've been at the Oregon Country Fair. Ken Kesey, and Nancy's yogurt, the husband and wife, for 48 years I've been going to the Oregon Country Fair. So every year I get hundreds of people in giant group shots on stage, after stage, all the jugglers, all the stilt walkers. So one day you and Jeffrey should come to the Oregon Country Fair. It's really a blast and remarkable. You stay in Eugene and it's 11 miles. You take the bus in every day and it's just you'd love it. Whoa, nice one. That's an album cover. There you go.
Yeah, this was working on Christine. And Keith Gordon, who played Arnie, the main character, was very interested in the directing process. So he wouldn't retreat between scenes. He would stay nearby and watch what John was doing. And as a result, he became a director, and he's a very good director because he learned by watching John.
Beautiful.
And then once I got into the union, I got on their availability list and I got called one night to work on Cheers. And that turned into a 9-year job. And this is backstage when John Cleese was a guest on Cheers, and he's hugging the director, Jim Burrows, who is probably the greatest sitcom director in history. He is absolutely amazing. He knows what's going on in every single camera at all times and knows how to stop a scene before they get to a punchline if one of the cameras wasn't in place in time, so that it doesn't spoil it for the studio audience, so that they get the true reaction. He's phenomenal. He's really phenomenal.
Did they do live? They didn't do live, did they?
No, they would
2 weeks.
They would rehearse during the day, and then they would shoot the show at night on film with the studio audience there.
I've been in the studio audience many times with Howie, my dad.
And I worked on Family Ties for 5 years. They saw the cast and crew picture I did for Cheers, and they said, "Oh, come do one for us." And then they hired me the next season. So 5 years on Family Ties, 9 years on Cheers. And then I shot the pilots for Star Trek Deep Space Nine and Next Generation. And over here on the far right is Brandon Tartikoff, who is the head of NBC, who had visited the set. And this is Roger Rees, who did some guest spots on the show. And this is Michael J. Fox with Michael J. Pollard. And the reason why it's significant is because he couldn't just be Michael Fox. There already was a Michael Fox in the Union, so he had to do something to make it different. So he put a J in the middle as a tribute to Michael J. Pollard. And when Pollard visited the set, I got a shot of them together.
Fantastic.
And then the one in the middle up here is when the Cheers guys lost a bar bet and they were supposed to shave their heads. And of course, it's just, makeup, but they looked like Road Warrior to me. So I posed them. That's my Road Warrior shot.
They had mohawks.
Yeah. And working on that show was just fabulous. I was like the family photographer. So whenever something would happen, like Kirstie Alley would throw a Halloween party for all the crew kids, or Jim Brose decided to have a bar mitzvah when he was 60. So, or baby showers or whatever. I was just the family photographer. I shot everything for everybody. And it was just a pleasure. Lovely group of people. And then, this is from working on Comic-Con. There's the two Spocks.
So that's Spock and his son, or?
No, that's Zachary Quinto, who played him in the recent movies.
Oh, that's the new Spock. Okay.
Right. That's the old Spock and the new Spock.
Have we lost Spock, or is he still with us?
I believe Leonard Nimoy passed away recently, I think.
Because we have Kirk, right? We have Kirk.
Yes.
He's 90 or something.
Yes, and he went into space.
He did. Yes, he did go into space. Well, live long and prosper, everybody.
Yep, and there's Patrick Stewart with Gene Roddenberry from when I was working on the Star Trek shows. So that's what I have put together for now.
Oh, fantastic. So you can leave the there we go. So everybody, we're here with Lenswoman in Love, the author and the photographer, the legendary photographer. Some people go, "Oh no, I'm not legendary." You are. You have blazed the trail with so many stories, and now your latest project is a book. You said you're going to do possibly a photo Lens and Woman book.
I may do a little companion piece that has the photographs that my alter ego in the book shoots in the book, which I happen to have shot, like the pictures from Pakistan and some of the rock and roll stuff. And
I kind of like that. Everybody, so be it. This may be the first photographer that has done a novel about maybe their own life or the things that they've navigated as a novel, and it's really cool idea. But then to have a companion book come out later with the photographs from it, it's kind of a catch. It doesn't crowd the book or make that book more expensive, the first edition, and then people can wait for it or become a fan. Like my Emma, my sister's daughter, has a series of The Good Witch, or
I have all of her books.
Yeah. And so we're waiting for the next one. And they're comics. They're kind of, what do you call that style that she does it in? When pictures, there's a style, there's a name for it, but bless you.
Graphic novels.
Graphic novels. Bless you, my niece, for your beautiful series of books, and may Lenswoman turn into a series. Maybe that would be great. Actually,
I've always imagined Lenswoman in Love as a limited series on TV because the way the chapters are, it lends itself to episodes.
Right. Oh well. Call Kid. We're on the inside here, everybody. We're with Legends of Photography. It's Jeff Eichen. I just have my old little my F1 here, There it is. And the cool thing about the F1, my F1, check it out, is I have the look at this viewfinder. Look, it goes bango. That's my beauty.
And this is what it looks like inside a blimp.
Oh my God, there's a Nikon F, everybody. Just as classic as an F1 Canon. Oh my
And
God.
and inside it's all foam padding and stuff, so that makes it soundproof.
The foam is still good.
Yeah.
Probably
And
barely, probably barely, you know.
and it's triggered. You can shoot there are shutter releases on each side.
And what about here? I'll show you my other camera. I'm gonna bust your technology factor here. So
I'm not a person to ask about technology. As far as I'm concerned, photography is magic.
I know, but this is old school. Okay, you know what that is, right? That's a Cartier-Bresson. That's a Leica. Okay, that's a Leica. But when you and I don't know why in the industry, when you click the Leica shutter, that's it. I wonder because there's no mirror in there. I wonder why in the old days people didn't use a Leica instead of a blimp.
I couldn't afford a Leica.
Right, but but I'm just saying, there's got to be a used one somewhere. But I mean, did they allow Leicas on the set instead of blimps? I just didn't ever see a Leica on the set, and all the wedding photographers would use Leicas because they just had a curtain and no, because this was the viewfinder right here, you know, just classic photography jargon. But everybody, there's an honor to the classic photographers. Cartier-Bresson used a Leica. He used a Leica. Let's see. Brett Weston used a Rolly 2 1/4, and that was cool. Ansel used a Hasselblad. That was cool. But they were loud. They were clunky, but they were also shooting landscapes. So
I used my Nikon F2 for 40 years.
one body, one camera, never changed it.
I ended up getting a second body so that I could shoot both color and black and white. But F2, Nikon F2. I mean, and as Maddie's film school teacher tells her, a heavy camera can work as a weapon as well as a camera if you need to, because they're so heavy.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Well, everybody, we're with Kim Gottlieb-Walker. Any final words that you have? Maybe some tidbits of advice to the young people coming up, and for the future. Hope.
I would say to young people who are interested in photography that history is happening all around us all the time. And it's up to the people who do the photographing to decide what is going to be remembered. And so get out there when there are demonstrations going on, when there are people speaking, go out and photograph them. You choose what should be preserved for history. So do it now, because 40 years from now, you'll be glad you did. And label everything in detail so you know exactly who you shot and when. And don't overshoot. Don't shoot 100 frames of the same thing. Pick your shots. Make it worth preserving.
Adobe Lightroom, everybody. So this is an advertisement. Helps you to organize yourself. Well, it's been a pleasure. I'm so blessed to have you in our world and for you to come on to some of my portals here and there. And when I come to LA, I'm having my this is aside from our show here. I'm having my living room tapes on Saturday for the fires in California. How is the energetics and the PTSD from the fires right now? So share that a little bit with our online people, how you're doing in Southern Cal.
Well, we were really lucky. We live in Laurel Canyon, which is a very dangerous place to be if
Right.
fire.
Right.
because we have very narrow streets, less than 20 feet across. And so it's impossible for people to get out and fire engines to get in. So we evacuated briefly when the Sunset Fire broke out, because that was within 2 miles of us. And with the high winds, we were worried that a spark would come to Laurel Canyon and it would be just a disaster. So when we evacuated, I gathered up all of my folders of negatives and proof sheets and piled them into the car. I mean, I literally filled the car with these folders because my negatives were the only thing that would be absolutely irreplaceable. And we went down to my son's house for a few hours, and then things seemed to be getting enough under control that we could go home. So we went back. But we were incredibly fortunate. I mean, so many people lost literally everything.
Did any fire roll down Laurel? Did any fire kill homes there?
We were lucky that the fires never came to Laurel Canyon.
And what?
And they stopped the Sunset Fire in time before it could spread to us.
And what about the Sunset Fire? Were any icons, buildings, iconic buildings taken?
Gosh, I mean, all of Altadena is gone, and there were all kinds of historic buildings in Altadena.
No, but on Sunset. I mean,
I don't think so. It didn't actually get all the way down to Sunset. It
okay.
was the hills just above.
So we didn't lose the Troubadour or the Roxy or. No. Now I did hear something about the Self-Realization Center at the end of Sunset and Pacific Coast Highway. Did we lose the Self-Realization Center?
I don't know.
Okay.
We lost the Will Rogers estate that was up there.
I do remember. Yeah, I heard that, and all those classic restaurants, Duke's.
Well, I know everything in Malibu, everything along the beach in Malibu is gone.
Duke's and Moon Shadows. You know.
Yeah, it was like Armageddon, and I had been hospitalized on the Sunday just before the fires broke out, and I was allowed to go home on Tuesday just in time to have a power outage and for us to gather up all of our stuff and evacuate. So,
wow. Wow. And
it was a pretty tense week.
So today is Thursday. We have Earth, Wind and Fire and Lady Gaga doing 2 different venues with like 40 musicians tonight, you know. Get a ticket or get on stage, you know, bring your swag to one of those and all that. But we're planning a concert for the marijuana prisoners, everybody, in Oakland on 12/20, and we're just finishing up some of our back office stuff. And as far as I can tell, we're gonna be able to pull this off, everybody. I'm really excited about that. So we'll have you there, Kim. I want to document it and have our elders behind the scene with maybe on stage, you know, and have a little area for everybody to get photographed or have a little interview. But it's all about legacy, everybody. Lenswoman in Love. What the heck? A new book and a birth from Kim. And that's I'm so proud of you for staying inspired.
It was so cute because, as I said, Cameron Crowe used to write for our music magazine when he was a teenager, and so he's been a friend for a while. And I sent him Lenswoman in Love to read, and asked him if he would give me a cover blurb, and he sent me the most lovely quote, which I have partially on the cover, but he said, "It's no surprise that Kim Gottlieb-Walker's wonderful Lenswoman in Love is as soulful and true as her much lauded work in photography. Gorgeous with detail and gloriously filled with heart and adventure, this is the literary equivalent of a great song with the kind of magic that lingers for days." And that was from Cameron.
What a beauty. What a beauty. Well, we are honored. We are happy. We are filled with photography today, everybody. That floats my boat. Do you know that I went to the Philippines to photograph the Fraternity of Man, Don't Bogart That Joint, Lawrence Stash Wagner. Well, his partner Elliot went into hospice last week. And so we were raising the money to fly him and his wife here. And Ira, Elliot's son in Los Angeles, phoned up Lawrence and said that dad passed away.
Oh.
So bless the journey. Don't bogart that joint, everybody. Don't bogart that Tri-X, do your legacy while you have it, and look out for us. And Kim, we want to do projects with you forever, and have you on our shows here and there, and show more Bob Marley on our weed channel. We just have to end prohibition. We have to end hatred. We have to do what's right. Grow more hemp because dirty cotton is there. We want to rebuild Los Angeles, the hempcrete homes. Hemp does not burn. It takes a longer time for hemp to burn than wood. Okay, stop doing, tar and shake roofs. Everybody, put metal roofs on your house, or clay. And so, Legends of Photography, we did it. We did it. So wait, hang on. I got my. Dr. Demento says we did it, and what shirt do I have on today? Oh, I have my kinetic sculpture shirt on. That's a cool shirt. We do the kinetic race every year here, so it's always something for the glory, right? And I really honor you and respect and have a great, like you said, you're going to do you have a group or a club or something with the women over 70. I love it. My former partner, Micaiah, she is now number 2 in the world, maybe, or in the United States for women over 70 at pickleball. So there you go. We're all everywhere. We're all somewhere. It's Legends of Photography. I'm out, everybody, and it was such a blessing to play with you. And one day we'll come in and we'll load the pipe, and we'll have some gummy bears together. And I can't wait to come to your part of the world and to look for the future, everybody. That's all I got today, everybody. Hemp Hooray, and keep clicking, everybody. Keep taking whatever form. Your phone, the phone that put me out of business, or your Leica. Let's shoot film, everybody, and do our last film shoot. Maybe we'll all get together and shoot film for a little hideaway. We'll end up in Maui and do a little project. But I think that's what I want to do the rest of my life, are little projects. So this is a great birth, and everybody go get your lens woman. And let's let our little scrolly go. It says, Feel the Light. Kim's book may be purchased at all the usual places, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and then look out. We might have birthed the companion book with the photographs that you saw today. They're wonderful. Can you order any of your photos? Are any of them available yet online?
Well, they're not available online, but there are a few galleries that carry my work. There's a little gallery in South Pasadena that's called Sugar Mint, and they carry all of my Halloween pictures.
Okay.
As art prints. And people can always contact me, kim@largedoor.com, if they want to purchase art prints. I do sell them, and there are some galleries both in New York and here who carry them. Okay.
And you got everybody right here. You got the, hang on, my software is so cool, right? It's so cool. We got KimGottlieb-Walker.com. I'm sure you can find her there. If not, get in touch with me, everybody. You know how to find me. And it's all over everything. And so at the end of the day, we're going to play with our cameras till we are in the dirt. So
and Lens Women in Love can be pre-ordered now. It's going to be released on February 24th, but you can pre-order it on Barnes & Noble or Amazon, or using the ISBN, you can order it through your favorite bookstore, which I always encourage. And that way, all of those pre-orders kick in on the day that it's released. So you guys could help make it a bestseller, if even for an hour.
Fantastic. Do you have anybody, or do you yourself, have you ever worked with digital film footage? If I send you a copy of this, you can take snippets out yourself, and do you know how to do that?
I have friends who do, so.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll archive this immediately, and I have the interview with you and Jeffrey already archived. So let's keep that all going, and blow this up, everybody. It's up to you to have your legacy and that perfect click moment. Shoot less and eat less, but eat the right things. The right things is love. Well, wait. There's a radio station in Los Angeles. KJLH. Kindness, joy, love, and happiness. I'm out. Thanks, Kim. Okay. What the heck? So I'm going to go back over here to the StreamYard, everybody. Let's see if we can get to StreamYard here. StreamYard in the barnyard. So we are going to go to StreamYard here, everybody. Let's see here. Boom. Okay, so StreamYard says we are ending the stream. And we are going to go remove. So it's Jeff Eichen here, and we had a great show today, and it's all I got, but not really. Was fantastic to talk about photography again. So I'm going to get to you, Josh, I promise, in New Orleans. He has got the best black and white gallery in the world, and maybe that's how I'll spend the rest of my afternoon, finishing his video. So love you, everybody, and remember, shoot less, and mucho love in your life. Respect, honor, and KJLH, kindness, joy, love, and happiness. That's all I got.